Previously on my Saturn Return Diary. We started the weekend with a hike up Moja de Moreno. Our next stop was Faro Santa Luisa and ended the day at a secret beach. We spent the day in Vitoria Centro, which is the most historical neighborhood in Vitoria. We visited Parque Moscoso and we got to watch a samba practice. Today is our first full day in Rio. Today we are going to Rio, which is the aquarium, and then after that I was thinking we would get lunch and then maybe stop by the Black History Museum. I believe it's called MUCHAB. We'll see how it goes. You can probably hear the traffic outside. In a lot of ways, Rio already reminds me of New York. It's a much busier city than Vitoria, but I'm excited to be here and, take it easy. This is not like an extremely intense tourist trip. There's a lot to do in Rio. I don't think you could do it all unless you were staying here for a pretty long amount of time, so just gonna do what we can. I feel like the aquarium was slightly underwhelming for me personally, just because I think aquariums are the one thing that I visit in most places that I go to, and it's always cool to see fish, but there's really only one big tank towards the end and like this tunnel situation, and I feel like it was hard to actually process the information that was there because there were so many different groups of kids. But that's aquarium. Overall, it was cool. The Afro-Brazilian History Museum was definitely the highlight so far. I think it was exactly what I needed in this particular moment in time, which I really appreciated and wasn't expecting. I think as a Black person of color, anywhere that I go that is not Africa, and even then, I've only been to South Africa, which is still very much so segregated and the impact of colonization is very present there. But I think being in any country that was impacted by colonization, there is this feeling of like, either I don't see people that look like me, or I do see people that look like me, but it's very few. And I have to go out of my way to prioritize making sure that I learn about the history and experience of Black people wherever I am. And I think the experience of Black people in Brazil in particular is really interesting, and in a lot of ways parallels US because of slavery and colonization that took place here. And then there are these other layers of it because of the influence of Portuguese culture in particular. So it's really interesting because there's this experience of this shared pain within the African diaspora, but also this shared resilience. And so going through the museum really reminded that in a time where honestly my headspace has been feeling very like exhausted and on edge, and not really feeling like I have the capacity to show up, especially us being on our own. I always feel like I'm, one, being very protective of my brother, but also feeling very like, I think the experience of being a Black person in general is like there's always a part of your brain that's like watching your surroundings and trying to gauge who is reacting to you in what way based off of what aspect of your identity. And that's really exhausting. And I realized, or at least I feel as though, and I'm thinking that there's this aspect of being a marginalized person where, you know, on your day-to-day basis you might feel fine, but I think there's just a point where all of those little microaggressions and all those little moments of feeling unsafe and feeling like you have to be hyper vigilant kind of add up and lead to you not having as much capacity. So that's kind of the headspace that I've been in the past couple of days. And I think when I am in that space, I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to be a homebody, and I just want to like be able to breathe and recalibrate. And I was feeling really discouraged because of that, because it just feels like there aren't a lot of places where I feel like I can truly feel safe and just exist without having to overanalyze and overthink how I'm being perceived. And for me, embodiment work and liberation work is really important to me, especially as an energy work practitioner, which I haven't really explained yet. But for context there, I'm a transformative energy worker, and transformative energy work is a modality that was created by Kenneth Jover, who's my amazing teacher. And the main premise of it is really being able to work with subtle energy in the body, in your aura, and around you to really be able to recalibrate and relate to the world from a place of your authentic energy as opposed to the energy that you pick up from other sources. And a big part of that is being able to feel embodied and being able to have a regulated nervous system and being able to feel grounded in your body, and always kind of trying to recalibrate back to that center point when you don't feel grounded and embodied. Because there's like, and this is also related to polyvagal theory, which I can insert chart somewhere. But with polyvagal theory, you have your window of tolerance, and then you can either be hyper-aroused or hypo-aroused, or basically be in like fight or flight. And so I think when you're in a position where you're in a chronic state of stress, you are in a chronic position of fight or flight, and that's really damaging to your overall well-being over time. So all that to say, a big part of what I see my work is being able to help more marginalized people be able to embody liberation, be able to embody feeling like they can exist and breathe and feel safe, so that we're not wasting energy being in fight or flight, and we're able to use that energy to be generative and create the lives and the society and the environments that we deserve. But that doesn't necessarily, one, that feels really big, and it doesn't always compensate for just the daily struggles. And so I say all that to say, like, going to this museum really reminded me of both the pain and tragedy that comes from the experience of being a Black person and living in westernized societies that are really built on colonization and on the oppression of Black people, but also reminded me of like the resistance and the joy and the beauty that was able to be created from that. I think in the US there's this experience of, and my parents are West African immigrants, so I also relate to being raised in the US differently because I'm not necessarily Black American. but I think there's this experience within the US where Black culture is so influential and really centralized in terms of like creating the culture in the US in a way. And I think it's similar here. When you think of Brazil, you think of samba, and samba came from Afro-Brazilians. I say all that to say, I think the museum was like a really beautiful reminder of the resistance that's possible, and a reminder of what people who look like me have been going through for years and years and years. And if they could survive all that they survived, like, I can't give up. Like, I gotta keep pushing. It was just really nice to be at a space where I felt really at ease and like I could take my time. There was like a beautiful mural, and there were these different rooms that explained different aspects of the history. And then I think also as a wellness practitioner and a healer, something that was really moving to me was this room that had these artifacts that were found in the port that was very nearby, where a lot of enslaved Africans were brought to in Brazil. In Rio specifically, there was this area that was talking about the objects, and a lot of them were spiritual in nature, and that included crystals. And so there were all these like clear quartz crystals and some amethyst, and something about that just like really made me want to cry. I think like the depth and the wisdom of crystals gets lost in the mainstream approach to them and the mainstream presence of them. And to just be reminded that like this is an ancestral technology, this is an ancestral way of relating to the earth and protecting ourselves and working with energy that has existed long before me. I have the opportunity to relate to that. Like, I always wear my tiger's eye bracelet, and I have a clear quartz ring that I wear often, but like sometimes I don't because I don't want to lose it. But yeah, there was just something about that just made me feel like I'm on the right path, and like I really feel passionate about reclaiming all of these tools that my ancestral lineage used and like ancestral cousins used, I guess. And so that was really moving. And then there was a woman that was sweeping the room and where the gift shop was. And I was being really awkward because I was like, I don't want to get in your way. I don't know if this room is closed. Like, I was just like, eh. And she was like, no, like, you're welcome in. And then she was like, this is your house. And I literally was like, like, I don't know. That really was like very sweet and very beautiful. So I'm really grateful to have been able to have that experience so early on in the trip, because I think it's really helping me shift my mindset. Y'all, we are back from watercoloring and the cafe, and my first YouTube video is officially live. I cannot believe I'm doing this. I have so many feelings, but it's live. I went up at 5, which was a couple minutes ago, but I'm working on the little TikTok preview to promote it. But yeah, we're here. We're doing the thing. Look at it. Oh my god. Wild. Hey y'all, so we only have a few more days left in Rio. Yesterday was Saturday and we did a full day tour from like 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. of all the major sites. But it was a really great tour. The only issue was that it was primarily in Spanish and Portuguese. It was really testing my ability to remember both languages because I learned Portuguese the first time that I was here and I took Spanish in high school and grew up in a Spanish-speaking neighborhood, so I feel like I'm basic in both. The tour guide was super nice. Seeing all of those different sites in person for this first time was really cool as well. Extremely busy, and it was also extremely hot. It was like 100 degrees, so I would not recommend doing that. I think my initial concern was making sure that it would be clear enough for us to see and like have a good view, but it was far too hot. And now it's raining. It's going to be raining for the majority of the time that we're here. So today's more of a museum day. We're going to go get lunch and then go to Museu de Arte Moderna. And then tomorrow I either want to do a walking tour of Pequena Africa or Little Africa, or do another tour of the stairs because I felt like I didn't really get as many pictures as I wanted to there and it was super busy, so I'm hoping Monday will be less busy. Date for now. And I might do another update later about the Artist Way because I think I'm on week 5. This week was the reading deprivation week, which I feel like was really interesting, so I might share more of my thoughts later. But that's the update for now, and we gotta go because it's raining, the Uber prices are surging. I wanted to do an Artist Way recap. I'm on week 5 of the Artist Way. So week 1 was recovering a sense of safety. Week 2 was recovering a sense of identity. Week 3 was focused on power, and week 4 was focused on integrity. It was really interesting because when I started it, and the first theme was safety, it was right after the car accident, and I was like, LOL, this is probably the time in my life where I feel really safe, and this is what the focus is. But I think so far it's been really affirming in the sense of just being someone that always had creative inclinations but didn't necessarily feel safe and supported in pursuing those creative inclinations. Like, I think I've still been able to dabble and experiment with a lot of the art forms that I was drawn to from a young age, but I always felt like I had to compromise or do well in something else to justify focusing on it, and it didn't really give me the opportunity to develop my sense of creativity, my voice as a creative, my creative identity outside of, oh, I'm doing this musical at school, or oh, I'm in this choir for school and somebody else is picking the music. And so I think it feels very different now, like having my own channel and like developing my own editing style and really having to trust my own creative instincts in terms of what I think is cool. Obviously, I have different forms of inspiration that I'm pulling from, but a lot of how I'm showing up, especially on YouTube, but also in terms of how I'm approaching energy work, is really just me going with my instincts in terms of what makes sense to me. And so I think being able to do the artist way at this time has been very affirming and nurturing in that way. In terms of week 4, I didn't do as many of the exercises as I would have liked, but the main task for this week was doing a reading deprivation, which wasn't really ideal, mainly because we were traveling and I had to spend a lot of time like looking at reviews for things and planning and stuff while we were here, so it wasn't really feasible for me to not read at all. So I took it as more of a content deprivation in general. Like, I haven't been watching any YouTube videos, I haven't been watching any shows, I haven't been listening to music or podcasts. I've been checking my email, but very infrequently, and really only focusing on emails that are pertinent to what we're doing or like that require something specific from me. Like, I haven't really been reading a ton of content-based newsletters, and so that really just left me with being able to play video games on my iPad, of which I have like 3, and being able to edit. And towards later in the week, I started allowing myself to do energy work classes, but I haven't even been doing meditations that are by other people. I've been really focusing on just doing them with music. So I do feel like that's been really helpful. I started on Tuesday because I was throwing a temper tantrum, so I didn't want to start on Monday because I was having a hard time, and I wanted to be able to comfort myself before starting, which I think says a lot in and of itself. You know, like, I think we're very conditioned to just be consumers and consume as much content as possible, and we don't always have a very intentional relationship with it. So I think having to do this deprivation made me realize that I've been consuming content a lot of times from a place of needing to distract myself or numb myself from what I'm feeling, as opposed to really being able to sit with what I'm feeling, accept what I'm feeling, and increase my capacity to do that and be present with those feelings, and to be able to channel those feelings into something more productive for myself. Honestly, I've gone to sleep so much earlier this whole week than I have any other time that I've been here, because I play video games, I listen to an energy work class, that's it actually. And then I'm like, okay, I'm bored, let me just go to bed, and then I'll wake up, edit, or I'll edit before I go to sleep, and that's literally been it. It's been very refreshing, and I think it's also given my mind a form of rest that I didn't even know that I needed, because now I'm genuinely excited to watch things on Tuesday. We have a long bus ride. I'm gonna sleep for a lot of it, but as soon as Tuesday hits, I'm watching the What If trailer, I'm watching Cozy K's new video, I'm probably gonna download some form of episode or 2 of the Gilmore Girls. Like, I'm excited to watch certain things. I think anything you're doing, really, it's important to take a break at some point so you can come back to it from a more refreshed perspective. This week is week 5, which is recovering a sense of possibility, which definitely feels relevant because I was even looking at my horoscope in Chani. Even within that, a lot of the astrology is around kind of thinking more about the future and the things that I want to do long term. And I haven't even been in that headspace, so it seems on time. For day 5, we started the day with a tour of Pequena, Africa, or Little Africa. Given the experience of enslaved Africans in Brazil, some aspects of the tour are intense, so please pause and reground as needed. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to share what I learned about Afro-Brazilian history. And at the same time, I believe practicing self-care as you learn about heavy topics is important. Our first stop was the statue of Mercedes Baptista. She was a pioneer as the first Black ballerina in the Rio Municipal Theater and the creator of Afro-Brazilian ballet. Next, we learned about composer and sambista Hilario Jovino. He played a key role in Carnaval by creating ranchos or ensembles with specific music, choreo, and costumes. Hilario created the rancho Rei de Ouro in 1893, which is depicted in this mural and still performed today. Next, we learned about Pedra do Sal, or quebra-as-bundas. During slavery, enslaved people transported salt on their backs through this area. When it rained, the rock became slippery, causing enslaved people to fall and break their bones. Hence the names Pedra do Sal and quebra-as-bundas. We also learned about Chiasiata, depicted in orange here, a key protector of samba music. Samba was criminalized throughout the 1930s and 40s due to its roots in African religions and traditions. Vagrancy laws allowed police to jail samba performers for carrying instruments and singing at night. After using her healing abilities to help the president, Chiasiata leveraged her influence to foster a safe space for samba's growth. She would host samba gatherings in her home and prevent them from getting shut down by the police. Samba developed into what it is today, in part thanks to her and the other Chias who protected it. We also learned about Zumbi, who was an important leader in the resistance against slavery in Brazil in the 1600s. He was the last king of the Colombo dos Palmares, a community of escaped slaves. Zumbi was decapitated on November 20th, 1695, which is now honored as Black Consciousness Day in Brazil, which happened to be the day we went on this tour. Our next stop was the Hanging Garden of Valongo, which was created in 1906. The garden is now used to host concerts and cultural events. However, it overlooks Valongo Street, which enslaved Africans passed through on their way to being auctioned. The reality of the slave trade on this street was captured in a painting by a visiting French artist named Jean-Baptiste Debray. Our last stop on the tour was Valongo Wharf, a dock built in 1811 where many enslaved Africans arrived to Rio through. The dock actually has two layers because the first one was covered and built over. The first dock was covered in 1831 and renovated in 1843 to welcome Princess Christina, only to be covered again in 1911. The dock was rediscovered during Olympics renovations in 2011 and was designated a UNESCO Heritage Site in 2017. Senegal gifted the site a baobab tree to honor the ancestors buried there without proper funerals and to support their transition into the afterlife. I was in tears by the end of the tour, and I just left feeling so much reverence for the ancestors that persevered for their descendants to be here today. We learned so much during this tour, and I hope you'll use this as a starting point to learn more about Afro-Brazilian culture and history.